When I think of a minivan, I think of one of two primary uses. Either one, you're hauling kids around town, daily duty, or two, you're taking road trips. So for the ID Buzz, if you want to do the latter and you want to go on highway road trips, what sort of range can you realistically expect cruising at highway speeds? Tonight we find out. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. Today we've got the real-world highway range test and economy test on the 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz First Edition. In this test, I'm going to head out on the highway and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour, to get a realistic efficiency and range number for this very cool new electric bus. Now before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Yes, a highly anticipated vehicle and one of the coolest, if not the most affordable and practical vehicle for many people, the Volkswagen ID Buzz. I love how it looks. I love how it drives. I love that it's a fun vehicle on the new car market. I drive so many cars these days that are just plain boring, whether they're electric or a little 2-liter turbo or something like that. I love getting into a car like this that gets so much attention and has such a cool, fun nature to it. It's just neat to me. So if you do want to see more on the ID Buzz, check the link below for our full review, and I've also got a dedicated breakdown on the 14-speaker Harman Kardon sound system found in this first edition. So why do we do this test? Well, the EPA's highway fuel economy test, which gives this ID Buzz 75 mpge, that test only averages 48 miles per hour. And we know if you're going to be heading out on the highway and doing a trip, you need to know how far you can realistically go at much more efficient speeds, somewhere around the speed limit at least, in our case 70 miles per hour. So in order to test that out, I'm going to head out on the highway here at night with a 100% full state of charge. I'm going to go out and do 100 miles. I'm going to come right back, fill the car all the way back up with electrons, I should say, see how much electricity we used, and see what the car calculated, our kind of range figure was, see how the percentage has dropped, do some calculations, and get what I say is a fairly realistic and achievable range figure here in the real world. Some other things to note for the test: outside temperature is going to drop down into the high 50s in Fahrenheit here on this test. It's going to be at night, so we are technically going to be running the headlights and interior lights, although I suppose the interior lights are kind of always on for this car, aren't they? The tire pressures will be set at their door placard, 39 psi cold in the front and 45 in the rear. And I'm going to run the climate control at 73 degrees auto, so it will likely be using the heater a little bit. Now, the mixed driving EPA figure for this car is 234 miles. That's what you're going to read when it says how far can you go on a charge. But that is based on the 83 kilowatt hours of mixed driving efficiency that the EPA reports. However, like I said, that's only 75 mpge for highway driving. So if you do a little bit of rough calculation, the EPA is estimating that you should be able to squeeze about 211 miles out of a charge here for this car at highway speeds. So it will be interesting to see what numbers we actually see doing proper real-world speeds. So with that, let's head out onto the test. Here we are, all charged up and ready to depart. Now, I charged this thing fully about 3 hours ago. It was at 100%, done charging, wouldn't accept anymore. Drove it out of my garage, parked it, came back out here to run the test tonight, and it says 99%. So I guess maybe shame on me for not leaving it plugged in all the way till the very end, but it was slightly less convenient. So I'll try to factor that into our test. I'll see kind of what it comes back to all the way full, but essentially the battery's got to be about full, even though it technically says 99. But you will be comforted to know that the tire pressures are set to their 39 and 44 psi. We're going to get the trip computers reset here. Let's do long term. Zero that out. Yeah, see, since charge, it says it's taken 0.3 kilowatt hours since the charge, but all it's done is come out here. That's a bit frustrating. All right, so we got that reset. GPS. Let's reset it one more time. Climate control, let's get that going. 73 auto. Looks like it's going to be making some heat on the driver. We're ready to begin. And we do have a few different drive modes here in the Buzz, but let's see, Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Custom. Let's hit Eco right there. Saying 255 on the range guessometer. That dropped down a little bit once we turned climate control on. I am going to be doing the test with B mode on, however, because I feel that one pedal driving, or at least the closest thing to, is the ideal way to drive an electric vehicle. And this is kind of a fun first for the DM highway fuel economy test here, in that I have not driven this car yet. Not only have I not driven this specific one, I haven't driven the ID Buzz at all. So this is a brand new vehicle, first time me ever getting to drive it on this video. Usually I get a car and I drive it around for a little while, and then I'll shoot a video for Winding Road Magazine, and then I'll shoot a little intro here, there, or whatever. But just the way my week is shaking out this week, I am having to shoot the fuel economy test immediately as soon as the vehicle got delivered. So yeah, that's what we're doing. This is going to be some of my raw first impressions, and at least on default here, it doesn't seem that the ID Buzz has one pedal driving. And that's really frustrating to me, because the ID4 also didn't have one pedal driving, and that was frustrating also, so I'm disappointed. Now, the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not trying to get the best possible range out of this car, but rather a realistic figure. So in order to do that, I'm getting up to highway speed here at a reasonable pace, and I'm going to set the cruise control at a GPS indicated 71 miles per hour. That should allow us to average about 70 over the whole test. Looks like our speedometer is pretty darn accurate with the GPS, 71 giving us 71, so looks like that's probably where we'll settle in. Set. Oh, we've got the haptic controls. I just got out of the Volkswagen Jetta, and that had the nice real physical buttons. I guess I'm not too surprised that this very high-tech and futuristic-y type van would have haptic controls, because apparently those are all fancy and tech forward. Okay, but we do have some sort of active lane keeping functionality. We'll see how that functions throughout the drive. I'll report back on it. Initial highway impressions. A little bit of a classic rumble going on here with a bigger cavernous vehicle like this, and also having the glass roof open, but overall not too bad, I don't think. It'll be interesting to spend the time with it here. But we're going to continue on with the test, catch you through at the end, and I'm going to test out this Harman Kardon sound system with a whole slew of members-only tracks, so if you'd like to see that, check the link below. And in the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end of the highway range test here in the Volkswagen ID Buzz. I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised. We are at 53% state of charge after traveling 98 miles. And, you know, don't get me wrong, that's still coming in just over 200 miles on the highway of range, and that is a decent bit lower than the roughly 250 miles that Volkswagen says you'll get in mixed driving. However, it is fairly in line with what the EPA estimates you'll get on the highway. And I guess I expected worse. I expected this to be somewhere down in the 170s, 180s. Now, realistically, you're not going to be stretching it from fully 100 to fully 0. If you go on something like a road trip, you're going to be charging up to about roughly 90%, then getting it down to about 10%. So yeah, I suppose road trip-ish status, you're still only getting about 150 to 160 miles usable range. But it could be worse, I guess, is what I'm saying. And if we can stretch to a full 200, which it looks like that's what we're going to be able to comfortably do, not terrible. This also isn't too bad of a place to be at highway speeds on a highway-style trip. Despite me not caring for the left arm ergonomics, the rest of the comfort has been fine. I have found myself adjusting the two-way lumbar once. Actually, is it three-way lumbar? Or four-way? Maybe it is four-way. Yeah. So I adjusted the lumbar in a little bit, give myself some support, but I've been decently comfortable. The IQ drive works pretty well, the active lane keeping. It's nice that it gives you a few different stages of warning when you have to put your hands back on the wheel. Sound system is fine. I'm going to have to do some further evaluation to see really kind of where we're going to rank it, but it seems passable for the price point. Yeah, no, it was a pretty straightforward highway trip. Doesn't seem like it'd be too much of a problem using up the battery here on the ID Buzz. So I'm going to get it back to the house. We're going to charge it all the way up and do some converting and some assumptions of efficiency and charging tomorrow morning and see what our final numbers are for this big charismatic electric vehicle. We got all charged up last night, and I know technically the car was at 99% when we left. However, I did notice leaving today that it was very, very short between being at 100 and 99. So it kind of just seems like that 100% state of charge figure is just very, very short in the ID Buzz. So it was only about 0.3 kilowatt hours that was used to drop down from 100 to 99. So fairly negligible in a test like this. That being said, last night we ended up putting in a total of 44.73 kilowatt hours from our charger. However, we assume a 90% charging efficiency at level 2 charging for an electric vehicle. Let's take that 44.73, just confirm that's what it was. Yep, 44.73 times 0.9, giving us 40.26 kilowatt hours that we assume actually made it back into the battery and was used to propel the car last night. So let's take that 100.7 miles traveled divided by 40.26, and we get a figure that's both better than I expected and exactly the same as what the car read out, 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, we don't test a ton of electric vehicles on this test, and there aren't really that many electric vehicles that we've tested that are this large and kind of this sort of shape, but 2.5 doesn't seem terrible to me. In fact, that's a little bit better than the numbers that the EPA sort of estimated we would be getting. So if we take that 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour times the 86 kilowatt hour battery pack, again, assuming that we could use the entire battery pack on this car from top to bottom, you'd be getting just over 210 miles of range here out of the Volkswagen ID Buzz at highway speeds. That's not really that much lower than the 234. And in fact, 211 miles is what was estimated if you take the EPA's mixed driving figure and make it fit. What's the best way to put it? If you take the ratio of highway to mixed driving and then take that by the total mixed driving range, you get 211 miles. We got 215 rounded down, or floored down, I should say, to 210 miles of range. And again, that's going from 100% all the way down to zero. In a realistic real-world situation, you're probably only going about 180 miles between charges. But that should get you, if you're cruising highway speeds, 2.5 hours or so. By then, somebody in the back seat's probably going to want to use the restroom, maybe grab some snacks. Not terrible, all things considered. Now, do I think they might have been able to fit a little bit larger battery pack in this size vehicle? Yes. However, still not the worst efficiency numbers for cruising on the highway with some climate on. Anything else we need to show regarding figures? Let's see, that's how much electricity we put in. This is what the car showed when I filled it back up this morning, 100%, 242 miles estimated. And there's that 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour that we had gotten after the whole test. All right, so like I said, I'm not too disappointed with those numbers. At least you're getting over 200 in real world sort of driving. Now, yes, if you're going to jump up to 75 or 80 miles per hour and be cranking the AC, you're definitely not going to be seeing those sort of figures. However, 200 miles for cruising at 70 miles per hour, not too shabby for the ID Buzz. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on this big electric van, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.